English and I moved up to Scotland to study, and my experience has been a very pleasant one. I think the Scottish people are really nice too, and hopefully you will if you come to study with us in Scotland too. Finally, I think one of the biggest points for you guys is that we do have very easy access in and out of Europe. I guess from St. Petersburg, the way that I got here was to fly from Edinburgh to Amsterdam and Amsterdam up to St. Petersburg, and it wasn't very tiresome at all. So we are incredibly accessible with 3 different major airports: Glasgow, Edinburgh and Aberdeen too. As I mentioned today, Scotland is a really hustling, bustling place to live. We're very much on the par and at the forefront of a lot of things to do with the global economy as well. I think music and film is something that we're incredibly proud of, whether it's a traditional depiction of Scotland or more modern, but we also create loads of films. There's loads of stuff coming out of Scotland too, things like Scottish film festivals as well. So we really do see ourselves as a global player on that front too. Again, the same with things like literature and the arts. Just as an example, quite a lot of the people who've won the Turner Prize in the past sort of 5 or 7 years or so, I think half of them have been Scottish, so yes, good for us. Things like sport and education, again, are very much on the forefront of what we do. We recently held the Commonwealth Games, which is a really, really big part. It was a massive part of our summer, and a really great thing that not only brought the rest of Scotland together, but really brought the rest of Europe, and the rest of the world actually, into Scotland too. And I think we gave you a pretty good show as well. And Haggis and Whiskey is on the screen yet again, so just to show we really like that. This is just a couple of things that Scotland gave the world. And you can see from the list, everyday things like the telephone, television, you know, these are Scottish inventions and we're pretty proud of those. Even things like penicillin, the main antibiotic used across the world today, is something that we invented too. Even things like Harry Potter and James Bond are proud creations of Scottish authors too. So, if I skip some slides, no. So, just to give you a quick idea of Scottish higher education, we have about 19 higher education institutions in Scotland, and you can see across the board that there are quite a few in lots of the different cities. There's 6 in Glasgow, 4 in Edinburgh, 2 in Dundee, 3 in Aberdeen, and then we've got St Andrews, Stirling, and the University of the Highlands and Islands out by themselves as well. And I think one of the main things to mention about studying in Scotland is that when you come and you move, whether you move to Glasgow or Edinburgh or Aberdeen or the Highlands, wherever you go to, you're coming to study in somewhere that's had a great foundation of education for hundreds and hundreds of years. We have some of the oldest universities in the world in Scotland. We also have a great array of modern universities as well, and I would say that education in Scotland as a whole has developed massively in the past 100 years or so. So we do have a nice mixture of very old, ancient universities and much more modern, newer ones too. Generally speaking, we're incredibly well rated for things like teaching quality and research, and our students are happy students, and that's a really nice thing for us to be able to say. Not only are we very highly rated for the quality of our education, but our students are having a really great social time as well. Many of the universities in Scotland are rated not only in the top 10 in the UK, but very highly across Europe for that level of student satisfaction. So if you want to come somewhere where you can guarantee a high quality of education as well as having a really good time whilst you're studying, I would really recommend coming to look at Scottish universities as a whole. And I think it's also important to mention that we have a really big international community of students studying in Scotland, again, whether you're studying in the Glasgow universities or across the rest of the UK. We have about 200,000 students studying in Scotland, but we have students coming from over 100 different countries to study with us too. Russia is well represented, I promise, as well. There are a wide range of courses available, and you can pretty much guarantee that it doesn't really matter what it is you want to do, you will find somewhere in Scotland that offers that degree. Whether it's at an undergraduate level or more of a postgraduate at a master's or even PhD level as well. You can use websites like UCAS is the British website that we use. It's a great way for searching for undergraduate programs, and a lot of the universities use something like UK Pass for their admissions to master's programs, so that's another really good tool that you can look at to see where you can study and what study you can do. In terms of undergraduate degrees, generally speaking, where degrees in the rest of the UK would be 3 years long, Scottish degrees are 4 years long, so you get an extra year in there too. And the reason that it's a little bit longer is more to do with the Scottish system of secondary education. Students leave school at 17 rather than 18 in the rest of the UK. It's a minor detail. The biggest difference is that for the first 2 years of most undergraduate programs, students will study a combination of different subjects, so not just one. Say, for example, you apply for English literature, you'd also study something like philosophy or politics or whatever it is you want to do, even things like maths and stuff like that in the first 2 years. And then you focus later on throughout the degree. So you're becoming more and more focused as you go on. And the reason that this is a really nice way of doing it is that it allows you the opportunity to try something before committing to it for the rest of your degree. You have that flexibility to try subjects that you might not have had the opportunity to do in school. So we think it's a pretty good system too. Again, across the board, for all Scottish universities, we have very high graduation rates and very high employment rates after university. I think British universities as a whole, as well as Scottish ones in particular, have got really great reputations, and employers across the globe really value degrees that come out of Scotland. When you're looking at subject choice, this slide's very similar to the previous one, actually. In fact, it's the same. So I'm going to skip to the next one. I mentioned before that we have a very, very wide variety of degree options, whether that's more classic subjects like your humanities or subjects like law. You also have much more vocational subjects, things like medicine, dentistry, nursing, as well as things like engineering, art and design, journalism, food and nutrition. You know, this is just a very small list. I'm not going to list everything that you can possibly do. But the point is, as I said before, it doesn't matter what you want to do. You'll find somewhere in Scotland that you can do it. And I would be pretty confident in saying that Scotland has a few hidden gem degrees as well, some quite unusual ones too. Again, depending what it is you want to do. Every university will have its strength and its specialism. And I think Scottish universities are pretty friendly at passing students from university to university. So if you were to get in touch with Dundee and we didn't do the course that you wanted to do, I would send you off to speak to the university that did. So it doesn't really matter which one you speak to. Hopefully you should get quite good response and told where you can do the degree that you want to do. A lot of our degrees have professional accreditations as well, which means that they lead into a specific career. And again, that goes really well with the employment rates and opportunities that I mentioned just before. In terms of getting into the universities in Scotland, each university will have slightly different entry requirements. So it's not enough to take one university as a blanket requirement. If you want to find out more about exactly what that particular university will be looking for, it's best to send them an email or even pick up the phone. We're pretty friendly, and find out very specifically what it is we're looking for. As an example, Dundee University will vary from Glasgow, and that will vary from Strathclyde and St Andrews and so on. So it's quite important to do research as well. I mean, when you're picking universities, whether you're staying in Russia or whether you're moving abroad, there's some really important factors that you have to take into account. And within Scotland, we do have a variety of different places to suit pretty much everybody. If you want to be right in the middle of a big city, and coming from Saint-Petersburg, you might want to carry that on as well. And we can certainly offer you big city locations, places like Glasgow, places like Edinburgh, even Aberdeen is quite a big city too. If you want something that's a little bit smaller, a little bit quieter, then you can still get a city feel in places like Dundee. We also have quite small towns like St Andrews University, which is practically built on the beach, so you can get some real good outdoor action there too. If you want something that's a bit of a step back from the city centre, if you want something that's a little bit greener, then we do have some lovely campus universities too. Places like the University of Stirling, whose campus is so big they have their own golf course incorporated into the campus. So we can offer you quite a variety of locations there too. The universities all vary quite a lot in size, so we do have some much smaller universities with more of a community feel, and we do have some really massive ones too, where you'll be one of thousands of students. So there's a range of experiences on offer across Scotland. I think Scotland's pretty famous for our student life. I think it's fair to say that we're quite a sociable bunch as well. And whether that's getting involved in things like societies, or if you're more interested in things like sport, there are so many different things you can do in Scotland. Again, within the sport front, each university will have a number of different societies. The University of Dundee has 80 societies and 40 sports clubs. I know that Edinburgh's got nearly 150 societies and probably a similar number of sports clubs as well. So again, like your degree, no matter what your interests are, you will probably be able to do that when you go to university. And also, getting involved in things like that is also about making friends from loads of different areas, whether it's part of international societies, or political societies, or religious societies, or academic societies. Again, there's something there for everyone on that front. We also have students' unions, or student associations, as they're commonly known. Part of the prerogative of a students' union is to give the students a very good social life, and I assure you we do that pretty well. But it's also about student representation and the opportunity for you to get involved in campus life, student politics and things like that as well. So there's great opportunities across all three fronts there. I would also say that Scottish universities are incredibly good at things like pastoral support, making sure that you are having a good time. I mean, if you're moving from Saint-Petersburg to Scotland, you'll be moving for quite a long way. You might feel homesick at times, and I would say that we're pretty good at making sure that everybody feels really comfortable. Speaking from Dundee's perspective, because that's where I'm from, that's where I work for, we certainly have support workers on hand, not only in the academic schools, but also in our student accommodation. So there's somebody there all the time if you need to speak to someone too. And this also includes things like financial services too. We also have study abroad opportunities, and I really urge you, if you get the opportunity to do an exchange, go for it, because it's one of the best experiences of your student life. I mean, if you're coming to study in Scotland, you'll be studying abroad anyway, but you can also study in other places as part of your degree. I know that at Dundee we have links in Europe, we also have links further afield in places like America, Canada and Australia, so you really can spread your wings and get a truly global experience out of your time at university too. Accommodation is pretty good as far as Scottish universities go, across the board, across all of the universities. Speaking from Dundee's point of view, if you list us as your first choice university, we will guarantee you a place in our student halls. And we do have a set of student halls that are specifically for international students and international postgrad students too. If you want to get involved in the other student halls, then that's all right too. I'm just trying to think whose accommodation we've got on the board. I think we've got Stirling's down here. I think that's one of Stirling's. I'm not sure where the rest of are. It's a bit of a mixture of all the different Scottish universities. I think with Scottish accommodation, in general, it's incredibly well located. A lot of it is very close to the universities. Some are a little bit further away, but you're getting quite a good quality of accommodation. It's a total broad mix. Some of it will be self-catered, some of it will be catered, some of it you might have to share a room with someone else, some of it you will have your own bedroom and your own bathroom, certainly at Dundee anyway. So all I'm going to say really is that you're going to have quite a nice place to stay if you come to study. And a lot of it's quite reasonably priced as well. You might want to work whilst you're studying, and that's totally okay too. International students can work up to 20 hours per week on a student visa, so if you need to work to help fund your studies, there's loads of opportunities to do that at pretty much all of the universities. The universities also employ quite a lot of their students, so you could get involved becoming something like a student ambassador, you could work for the students' union, and that can count as quite good employment as well. We also have really, really good links with industry, so as part of your degree you can get industry experience in your field, and that can lead to postgraduate internships and jobs, and I know a lot of people who have done that kind of thing too. I mentioned before that we've got really good employment rates overall. As well as actually getting you into a job, we do the first step, which is to give you careers advice and guidance. And at all the different universities in Scotland, we do have great career support too. There'll be specific people who are trained to give careers advice and to help you find out about opportunities that, there's loads of opportunities, so it's quite easy to get lost, but we're here to guide you through and make sure that you can make the most of them as well. Generally speaking, the cost of studying in Scotland is quite low. Obviously that will vary depending on where you are studying. Places like Dundee will be cheaper than places like Edinburgh or Aberdeen, so I can't go into too much detail. The best thing to do is to do a little bit of research there. But the average yearly living costs across the board are between £5,000 and £8,000. I worked out that when I was a student, I was living pretty comfortably on about £7,000 per year, and I had a car, so that was quite expensive. You don't need to bring a car to study in Scotland at all. Tuition fees can vary quite substantially depending on what it is you want to do and where it is you want to go. So I'm not going to talk too much about them, but just to let you know that the average range is between £9,000 and £12,000 per year. Obviously you'll have to contact your individual university to find out the specific prices for your courses as well. So just a very quick note about Dundee, and then I'm going to finish. Dundee, we're a campus university, but we're also right next to the city centre, so we're a little bit of a hybrid, a really nice mixture. We're also right next to the River Tay, which is ginormous, so it's a little bit like living next to the sea as well. You really get a nice balance between the city and the fresh air. We're located an hour from Edinburgh, Glasgow and Aberdeen and the Highlands, so we are absolutely perfectly located to get the best out of Scotland when you come to study with us. If you want to go and explore the Highlands, if you want to get out to sea, it's incredibly easy as well. Teaching at Dundee is split between 4 colleges: the College of Arts and Social Sciences, the College of Arts, Science and Engineering, the College of Life Sciences, and the College of Medicine, Dentistry and Nursing. But we've got a really, really wide range of both undergraduate and postgraduate courses within those as well. If you have a look on our website, you'll be able to find the full list of stuff. Originally, we were a college of St Andrews University when we were established in 1881, and we were founded by a lady called Mary Ann Baxter, who was quite radical for her time. She believed that education should be as much for women as it should be for men. So if we've got any feminists in the audience, yes, it's all good. And to this day, we do have a slightly higher percentage of women to men at the university. We gained our independence in the 1960s and became a fully fledged University of Dundee by ourselves, and we've expanded massively in the past 20 years or so with over £200 million invested in our campus. And that's to do with our accommodation, but also the teaching facilities, the students' union, the gym, the library, all those kind of things as well. We do truly have a very modern campus now, but we do have quite a lot of good old traditions from back in the day too. We are rated #1 in Scotland for student experience in 2014 as well as 2013 too, and we were #1 in the UK in 2012, and that's a reputation that we're quite proud of too, as well as our quality of our degrees and our world stature across the board. We have about 18,000 students, and that includes all levels, so undergraduate, postgraduate too, as well as part-time students. We have about 11,000 undergraduates, and about 15% of our total student body is made up of international students, so quite a lot of you come to study with us too. I mentioned before, nearly 100 different countries studying in Scotland, and Dundee's no different. We've got students studying with us from 85 different countries, and we've got really good international societies, so you can get involved and meet people from different parts of the world as well. That's it from me. Does anybody have any questions at all? More questions? Okay, if anybody... Oh,
Are there scholarships for international students?
scholarships for international students. Very good question. I probably should have mentioned that in my talk. Yes, there are lots of international scholarships available. Again, they will vary from university to university, so it's best just to have a look on the individual university websites. At Dundee, we have a £3,000 per year tuition fee reduction called the Dean's Scholarship that you can apply for. Within that, there's also I think it's the Vice Principal's Scholarship that's 1 year tuition for free. We have a 5% reduction on tuition fees if you pay them early, or certainly by the deadline. And we also have a promise that for international students coming to study with us, we won't increase the tuition fees partway through your time at university as well. So if the national fee goes up, ours will not if you're already in the system, if that makes sense. That's just Dundee scholarships. Other universities will have more and different ones as well. Good, well, thank you very much. If anyone wants to come and ask me a question face to face, please feel free. I'll hang around for 5 minutes or so. Otherwise, thank you for being a lovely audience.
Thank you.